The Kansas City Police Department now under a federal investigation. Some big political names fly in. And is the new look KCI ready for takeoff? Airport officials say it's 90% complete. And a new fix for the homeless, why the city is now paying them $15 an hour to pick up trash. Those stories and the rest of the week's news straight ahead.
Week in Review is made possible through the generous support of AARP Kansas City, RSM, Dave and Jamie Cummings, Bob and Marlise Gorley, the Courtney S. Turner Charitable Trust, John H. Mize and Bank of America N.A. co-trustees, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome. I'm Nick Haynes, your host and guide through the week's most impactful, confusing and befuddling local news stories, lifting up the hood and possibly the roof, windows and doors off of our Metro's top headlines are the Kansas City Call's Eric Wesson, Dave Helling of your Kansas City Star, and Channel 9 chief political analyst Michael Mahoney. Our town is back in the national spotlight this week as the Justice Department launches a federal probe into the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department.
Maybe it takes something forced to get it fixed.
I do not think that this is the sort of thing that perhaps is astonishing to us, and frankly, that in and of itself should be concerning.
The Washington Post, CNN, the New York Times all picking up this story. What are federal investigators looking for, Eric?
Well, discrimination. Black police officers discriminated against for promotions, black police officers discriminated against while they're going through training. One of the interesting things that I found out about it, because I've been doing this study about it, is the retention of black police officers once they get out of the academy. And I think the Star, Glenn Rice and the crew did a very good job of exposing it. But what I think most people in the black community wanted them to do was look at the police shootings, look at a lot of other things that are going on in the police department with that culture that is just growing amok.
But there have been groups calling for police accountability for years and years. They've been on the streets protesting. Why now then, Michael?
Well, it takes a little while to get the attention of the Justice Department, and you're right, and Eric is right, that the first calls for this, which happened after the George Floyd incident and the demonstrations and troubles here in Kansas City, was from the Urban League and Gwen Grant, some other civil rights leaders. Let's have the DOJ come in and look at the policies and the practices of the Kansas City Police Department, including, in addition to the hiring policies that apparently they're going to be looking at. And so it's taken a while for this to get the attention of the DOJ. Now it's going to be there, and it's going to take a while for the DOJ to conduct an effective investigation. And so I don't think anybody should be waiting for a report from the Department of Justice about the Kansas City Police Department that anytime soon. It's going to be months, maybe well over a year.
Does this change the search for the next police chief? We're still under interim leadership.
Yes, it does, Nick, for a couple of reasons. First, if you select someone from within the department, which appears to be likely, Kansas City hasn't picked a new chief from outside the department in decades, then whoever you pick is going to be tainted by this allegation, these credible allegations of racism and hiring, promotion, and Eric didn't mention this, but hostile work environment is also part of the Justice Department's probe. And that's part of the story that Glenn and others wrote for the Star, that once you're an African American in the department, you're subject to harassment and name calling. And that, of course, needs to be explored as well. So if you pick someone from inside, you've picked someone from the existing culture, and the idea that somehow trust can be rebuilt when you, in essence, just continue the practices that led us to this point is going to be difficult. On the other hand, we're writing about a bit about this. If you pick someone from outside the department, that person, him or her, comes to the police department under the cloud of a federal investigation from the Department of Justice and the potential of a consent decree that would outline specific hiring practices, specific remedial steps the department might have to take. So either way, it's going to be much more difficult for the police board to pick a new chief.
But here's the million-dollar question. The Board of Police Commissioners have said nothing.
Well, 2 of the 4 members of the police board who are appointed by the governor are serving on expired terms. Their terms actually expired a year ago. And the idea that they're heavily involved in the search for a new chief when they're in essence serving when they should not be, should be of concern to every Kansas City, and we're writing on that subject at the Star.
And to Dave's point about the new police chief, I don't believe you can hire from within the ranks and change the culture, because a lot of these people that are on that list to be hired, they haven't said anything about things that are going on, and these things have been going on. That culture is just so embedded.
And in that sense, then, what does a Department of Justice investigation, a probe, do to the culture of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department? Does it really change it? I was struck by a Washington Post story 2 years now after the George Floyd shootings in Minneapolis, and they said basically it hadn't made much of a difference at all in the Minneapolis policing, even though there was also a Department of Justice investigation there too.
One would think it would make the police department here a little more cautious with this underway, and as Dave and Eric have said, the clear impact that this is going to have on picking another chief, which is probably also still a year away. But I also suspect that the SOP in the Kansas City Police Department won't change that much until it's forced to.
We've been hearing a lot more about the police department, though, in Kansas City, Kansas. We have the former KCK detective now making the headlines involving raping women, corruption, protecting drug dealers. Cases for years could have been tainted by this, for decades even. Yet, so why isn't there a federal Department of Justice investigation going on in the KCK?
Well, there is, obviously Roger Golubsky, who is at the center of this scandal, Nick, of course, has been charged federally. So there's obviously FBI involvement in this case. We have for many, many months, years, called for a federal probe in KCK similar to the one announced in Kansas City, Missouri. And for reasons that remain a little fuzzy, the U.S. attorney on that side of the state line has never pursued that. But there are obvious problems in the department. The district attorney in Wyandotte County, Mark Dupree, told us this week that he wants to reopen every case that Roger Golubsky touched, if necessary. There is evidence of tainted cases, so the story is still being told in KCK as well as Kansas City,
Eric.
Missouri.
To Mike's point, don't be surprised if they try to hire a new chief before the end of November.
Well,
because they're trying to fast track it right now.
Okay.
Are you ready to fly? Kansas City aviation officials say the new look KCI is now 90% done. They've been taking reporters around the region's biggest ongoing construction project this week.
We wanted this to be the gateway to the city.
It's amazing.
March 3rd on your calendar, that's when they're insisting the new terminal will be open, including its 50 stores, restaurants and bars. Mayor Lucas took to Twitter. You all remember all those news pieces about how this would be a disaster, never be complete on time? Dave Helling, are you willing to concede this is moving forward better than expected, or is it still too soon to be patting the city on the back for a job well done?
No, I mean, everything we see suggests it will be ready. The final push of the cash register button is not upon us yet. We'll see if they came in under budget. I think the mayor doth protest too much. There were enormous problems with the selection of the general contractor on this project, as we recall, and there has been a bit of a controversy surrounding the concessionaires who were hired and the program for that. But by and large, once they started construction, maybe you guys agree or don't agree, there hasn't been that much criticism of the project out there, and it has proceeded on time.
And contrary to what we might have heard in the past and rumors we've heard in the past, they're saying that every one of those shops and restaurants and eateries will all be open by that time too. They won't be delayed. And I know the Kansas City Coal is going to have a space there where you'll be selling chewing gum, drinks and newspapers.
Where people
in
really
the airport.
want.
Absolutely. That's what they want in this. They don't want to go to all these fancy restaurants. That's what they're looking for.
Right.
So is that your expectation that it is going to be open March 3rd?
It seems like it's going to be smooth sailing. I think the things that some of the stores might be getting from overseas has already been ordered, so it's scheduled to be here on time. So I think right now what we're doing is the build out with the individual stores. doing the build out. I don't understand why Edgemoor didn't do the build outs while they were in there. So now we have the cost of building out the stores. But right now, from everything that I've heard, it should be smooth sailing and everybody should have everything they need by March the 3rd.
What was kind of impressive looking at that video was you saw all the signs there, all the gates, you see them all right up there already. Wow, it's getting close. I don't see the Slide James International Airport sign outside the terminal yet, though, Michael.
Probably won't either, right? All right. You know, I have not had the opportunity to walk around it, but I've heard good things from the people I've talked to that have. And to Dave's point, the process of selection and the procurement on the front end of this was very messy, okay, and almost derailed the project at one point. But once they started, you know, hammering the nails and pouring the concrete, I think it's been pretty smooth.
There have been some comments about there not being a lot of national chain places out there. Probably 85% of the total concessions are local vendors. And I want to remind people that in San Francisco, they have the same model where they're using local vendors, and a lot of people where there's not this chain there, there's not that chain there. I like the concept of using local vendors for that because people, when you go somewhere different, you want something different.
Well, actually, Dave Helling was
So,
looking for a Brooks Brothers dress shirt and tie there.
Yeah.
That's what he was looking for.
can get
I'm
the
obviously
tie there,
the fashion plate here of Week in Review. I do think another thing that it has accrued to Edgemoor's favor in this entire endeavor, Nick, is as best we can determine, they have met their promises on inclusivity, at least in terms of contracting. Workforce participation may be a little bit weaker, but in terms of their promises to, hey, we will do this for the community and we will make sure of women participation and minority participation in the project, those goals seem to have been met. Again, we haven't gotten the final figures, but it appears that way. That was always going to be a stumbling block, that if indeed halfway through they were far behind, there would be protests, work would be shut down. That didn't happen. So that accrues to their credit. We'll know for sure if they met those goals at the end of the construction process.
And back to the vendors for a second. I think the renovation out there is caught in a damned if you do or damned if you don't. Because if it would have been all changed, a lot of people would have been complaining justifiably, where are the locals? And now it is a lot of local Kansas City flavor out there, and people are saying, where are the change? Folks, we got plenty of change, all right?
Exactly.
Coming up next, Empty No More. This 18-story downtown office tower was supposed to be the home of Waddell & Reed. That was until the Overland Park-based financial firm decided last year it didn't want it anymore, even though City Hall was throwing $35 million in incentives at them to move from Kansas to this spot just west of the Power and Light District. But can city leaders finally wipe the egg off their face this week? A new tenant has finally been found for what is now the most luxurious abandoned building in Kansas City. Blue Cross and Blue Shield is moving in, along with its 1,400 employees who are now busy packing up their belongings. So after all this drama, Dave Helling, have Kansas City taxpayers taken a hit, or has it had no impact whatsoever on our pocketbooks?
At least I don't know the details of the final agreement on this lease for the building, so we don't know whether there will be clawbacks for the city based on the employment situation at the building. Remember, some of it was based on having high salaried employees from Waddell & Reed in that building, some of the incentives, and one guesses that Blue Cross probably doesn't pay quite as well to its 1,400 workers as maybe Waddell & Reed. So we'll have to see. But the other thing to point out in this story, Nick, is now the Blue Cross building is empty. And it isn't.
Yeah, and they're right next to Union Station.
Yes,
There's a big space there.
Yes, and so the idea that somehow it's a net positive for Kansas City is an interesting concept, because it will help that neighborhood and help downtown, but creates a hole now next to Union Station that will have to be, one assumes, filled at some point.
That could be the home of the new downtown ballpark, though.
Oh, that's an idea. There you go. Right. In seriousness, though, the fact that, yes, there is going to be a vacant building down by Union Station, the whole idea of office space in the 21st century, in the second decade, is going to be something that every city is going to have to deal with and confront, because the pandemic has changed the way we work, and there are not going to be as many people 8 to 5 in offices anymore.
Now, when cities give away piles of cash to lure big companies, you often hear, why can't they find that kind of money to help people who really need it? Well, this week, Kansas City is throwing its money at the homeless as part of a new program called Clean Up KC. They're paying the homeless $15 an hour to pick up the trash.
I've slept in parks. I've been on bus bench before.
We have far too many vacant positions in our public works department, and we know that we have individuals who need an opportunity for a job.
To get back on my feet and have my own place and, drive a car again and, normal things like I used to do.
Now, I know there are people at home watching this and saying they're getting paid more than I am. Every new program, though, has its supporters and its critics. How is this new effort being viewed, Eric?
The jury's still out. It's a good concept. I think the city put $300,000 in it. I'm wondering
Which is
how
a tiny portion of the budget.
Really, really a small portion of the budget. But what are we doing after that? And this is supposed to be a year-long pilot program. What happens next? Will this actually help people get on their feet? The jury's still out on it.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things, however, you need to crawl before you walk. And so I think City Hall gets some props for that. Now, the program's not very extensive. It's a handful of workers at this point. But, there's a value to work that just, helps a lot of people in many ways. $15, nobody's going to get rich on that. I got it. But, it's $15 they weren't making beforehand.
But shouldn't we be trying to get people in careers? And I don't know is there a market for a career of picking up trash, cutting vacant lots? Why aren't we geared more toward getting people substantial, sustainable careers?
Agreed, but something is better than nothing. Again, I go back, let's crawl before we walk.
Yeah. And the other side of this quickly, Nick, is that the public upset with the trash in the streets and,
right.
and uncut vacant lots and medians with weeds and trash is very high. I mean, people are upset
Yes.
about it in Kansas City. And so the other side of this equation is this at least addresses an important need in this community to be cleaner about what we do. And in that sense, it may be a success as well.
Last week, we asked why we've had 0 visits in Kansas and Missouri this election year from President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. But that doesn't mean we aren't getting some big political names flying into town. This week, new Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin was here, and so was the man some say could be the next Republican nominee for president, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Both governors campaigning for Derek Schmidt, who's trying to unseat Laura Kelly as Kansas governor.
I am looking forward to the state of Kansas selecting Derek Schmidt to be your next governor.
Michael Mahoney, what was the value for Derek Schmidt in bringing in governors DeSantis and Youngkin?
Youngkin won election in 2021, basically on a very interesting platform that really works in governor's races, and it was, parents, you're not getting your money's worth for your schools. And he that resonated with Republican voters and voters in Virginia quite well, and people started looking, here's the pathway beyond Donald Trump. For the Republican Party.
How about for DeSantis then? Immigration has been his big push we've been hearing a lot about. Does that also benefit Derek Schmidt?
He will not win the nomination to be the governor of Martha's Vineyard, okay? So, but the DeSantis trip was him, as I mentioned before, coming in to pick up political chits among the Republican establishment around the country. So there's 2 very different campaigns, but they both speak to the importance that Republicans have in this race. And the Schmidt campaign is stepping up its attacks on Governor Kelly this past week as well. In fact, they're saying she's lying about things.
Derek Schmidt has been trying to de-emphasize abortion in that campaign. So does immigration help him more as an issue?
It might. I mean, immigration is an issue in Kansas and should be more than, for example, Missouri. The Latino population in Kansas is actually quite high, much higher in western Kansas than it is in our area. So it has some resonance in a way that maybe it should not or does not in Missouri. But the interesting thing to me, Nick, is that Derek Schmidt, there was some new polling this week that shows Schmidt trailing Laura Kelly by 2 or 3 points. Margin of error stuff, it's a toss-up race. That should be of some concern to Republicans, since Kansas is such a Republican state, and Jerry Moran is arguably a huge favorite in the Senate race and in other places. The idea that we're 7 weeks out and that it's a dead heat between Laura Kelly and Derek Schmidt suggests one reason why he's calling in Glenn Youngkin and getting more aggressive on TV and calling her a liar and other things, because I think he realizes he really needs to turn up the heat or his campaign would be in trouble.
And the independent person, it looks
you go.
like there's the one that's pulling his votes.
Yeah,
I don't think he's hurting
Well, first
Laura
of all, he's got to
Kelly.
worry about Dennis Pyle. Pyle had
Pyle,
3% of the vote,
Yeah.
and if that all went to Schmidt as we assumed it would, he would actually be ahead in the poll that I saw. So that's a concern. And there is also worry in both parties about the turnout of the abortion voters from August.
Right.
Will they vote or will they not vote? If they do turn out, Laura Kelly's in pretty good shape. If they don't, if it's a normal November election, it may be a better night for Republicans.
Just to flip that coin for a second, from the Democratic perspective on this, the fact that the incumbent governor is under 50% is always a trouble flag for that campaign. They believe that she's in her 40s, she's okay from that, but she is not at 50%, and incumbents always feel a lot more comfortable if they're above the 50% level, a lot more comfortable.
Independents tend to vote or go to the challenger in the last few days of a campaign because they know Laura Kelly,
right?
And so they would pick somebody else.
But I think the difference with this being, if you were a Democrat, is that that state voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump, and for her to even be a front runner of any sort, I think that speaks volumes of what her campaign is doing and what she's done. I guess.
I
That's
agree.
what
The
people are
fact of the
looking at.
matter is, it's a dead heat race. It's that lead is within the margin of error on that, and it's the same thing in the Kansas Attorney General's race, where Chris Kobach has a very slim lead over Chris Mann. That's also in the margin of error.
If you believe the polls, and they have been wrong.
Correct. They were wrong on abortion, heavily wrong. I mean, that was a toss-up race in the days before, Nick, as you know, and the no vote won by 18 points. So the pollsters have some work to do, and we'll see if that turns out to be the trend.
But there
in these
wasn't a
other
lot
races.
of polling done on the value.
They
of
were
them
still
both.
very wrong.
Yeah,
very
but there wasn't a big
All
body.
righty. Now, when you put a program like this together every week, you can't get to every big story making the headlines. What was the big local story we missed? I know the Royals haven't been playing very well this year, but is that any reason to fire the guy in charge?
When you don't win enough games, change sometimes is required.
It was a week for breaking heat records.
Expect a high of 100 degrees tomorrow.
Citing health concerns, a federal judge releases former KCK police detective Roger Golubsky from detention. He's been accused of raping black women, coercing witnesses, and protecting drug dealers. Kansas just started sports betting. Now Missouri lawmakers try to sneak it into the special session underway on tax cuts. Overland Park votes to crack down on Airbnbs with fines and jail time for nuisance parties.
It provides immediate relief to the neighborhoods about chaotic parties.
The Park Hill School District now so desperate for bus drivers, they're training and paying parents to get behind the wheel. One of Kansas City's longest-running traditions on the way this weekend, and Move Over Fancy Restaurants, one of Kansas City's tiniest and unassuming eateries, makes the New York Times 50 favorite restaurants in America list. And it's just a stone's throw from our studios here on 31st Street. Kitty's Cafe claims to serve the best tenderloin in town since 1951. And that was longer than the Queen served on the throne. Eric, did you pick one of those stories or something completely different?
I think the sports quote of the decade, maybe the century, was Sherman saying that he wanted to, he was talking about Dayton Moore, and he said, he always talks about championships. I just want to know what it's like to be a wild card team. I think that, Moore actually had 2 years longer because you figure he's had 6 losing seasons. I figured after 4, they would probably be looking in another direction. So I thought about that. And interestingly enough, the detective over in Kansas, when the FBI came to arrest him, they said there was an ambulance with him. So the question is, is he in that bad a health that even if they do convict him, how much longer does he have to be alive?
When you talk about the Royals, I was interested in that. We are not a sports show. Nobody turns to us to look at the latest on strikes and pitches, but does it have broader implications for Kansas City, Dave?
Well, I think there is an understanding that you need a franchise that is at least competitive if you want to go to voters to talk about a new stadium, and I think this may be the first of a rollout of initiatives that head in that direction.
What was the story we missed, Michael?
Just to add on the Royals thing, I think there are more changes in the front office to come as this season concludes. The sports betting story, the fact that there was a bill filed during the special session, and there's also a bill to repeal the Missouri abortion law, is window dressing at best. None of this is going to happen in the special session.
Dave.
Just briefly, the Queen would have loved a Kitty's tenderloin sandwich. Let's throw that out there. And the King is invited to come over and have one if he wants one. This week, the U.S. House passed a bill designed to clean up the way they count electoral votes after the debacle in 2020 and the January 6th difficulties. Every Republican from Missouri and Kansas voted no in the House. Every Democrat voted yes.
And back on Kitty's, don't go there right now. This is a favorite spot for people here. It's just down the road. And you can't get in. There are lines out the door even before 9 o'clock this morning. So people are coming in from all over the region looking for tenderloins.
And they say Prent is dead.
And they ran out halfway through the day because so many people now want it. If you see somebody on a list that gets popular, that's not the time to go. And on that, we will say our week has been reviewed thanks to Channel 9's Michael Mahoney, and always on call from the Kansas City Call, Eric Wesson, and from the pages of your Kansas City Star, Dave Helling. And I'm Nick Haynes. From all of us here at Kansas City PBS, be well, keep calm, and carry on.